My session this afternoon is understanding interpersonal skills. We're talking with Ezekiel and say during our time, this used to come not day one. It used to come towards the end when people have interacted. People have shown their true colors in volleyball pitch. Those who pretended that they could not even hurt a fly would have spiked on somebody, and there is a bit of commotion. That saizi mnajua bado mnapanga laini when food is served, no one is everybody is mindful of the next person and so on. So it used to come when examples could be picked more elaborately. Unfortunately, most of you arrived when, yesterday or the day before? Yes, maybe you're meeting, other than maybe that time when do you still do the fundraising session before this main one? Yeah, so maybe that's the last time you met and so on, or in one of the conferences. So we've not known who snores and who doesn't mind their bed properly and so on. So we are meeting you as you are, which is fine. So it gives an advantage. So you will be listening and saying, maybe that's me, maybe that is not me, or you start saying, as the days progresses, you'll be using my notes or my remarks to correct somebody and enhance interpersonal relationship, isn't it? So hopefully this session will be very meaningful to all of us, and indeed a good thing for our ministry. Why is it important? Is because we are a people's ministry. Let me say it at onset that this is situated very clearly because we are human beings. We are oriented differently, and for that reason alone, there is need to understand one another. But more significantly is that our ministry, and particularly the ministry we've been called to with students and even Christian ministry, gospel ministry, is a people ministry. You can imagine, even during Corona time, we longed to our fellowship. We longed the ministry of presence, isn't it? And it was very challenging. But I think that is the nature of this ministry. But being human and fallen and saved by grace only is that we are bound then to have challenges on how we relate with one another. And so this topic then becomes very critical for us, even as we think about this. Allow me just as maybe we move to the next slide just to help you see what we are seeking to cover, is that we'll do four main things. One is just to create an understanding of what interpersonal skills are and why are they important, and then explore some of these skills. Not all of them, and we'll do I've outlined 7 in this presentation. Probably we may not cover all of them in the same breath, but I will emphasize where I feel it is critical. And lastly will be, as before we draw to a close, is ask ourselves, what are some of the practical things that we need to capture as implication of this topic even for the wider ministry. And so that is the train that I want us to go through. That's the outline, and hopefully within those minutes I should be able to cover. But just as a start, really, before we delve into definition and so on, it's just by way of introduction, is that interpersonal, I think it's in the next slide, yes, that interpersonal skills are central to a robust ministry, because gospel ministry is Christ-centric and thus model and engaging people, thus speaking about ministry of presence. So if you like, that would be my thesis, that would be my proposition for us today, that at the center of ministry is Christ, and at the center of that Christ ministry is the people, and calling us then to say, how do we engage with people even as Christian workers, the gospel carriers. Allow me just to, and again, I don't think we have all the time, is that for a moment, you don't even need to write, just listen. So you can put your pens down. That's what I used to tell my students. Just listen to me as I read this. I should have projected so that I ask different people to read. But allow me to read. And as I read, I want you to reflect. I may not have all the time to go bit by bit, but after this, I'd ask some quick feedback. Have you ever wondered to yourself why and where people go, and we go to new places most of the time, and before long, there seems to be others who are able to strike conversations and exchange so much pleasantries and easily create some connections. Whereas others struggle to go beyond hi and my name is, and probably whether it has rained or not. Think about your first day in high school or boarding school for that matter, or even in the university. Better still, your first Christian Union meeting in campus. And as true as it is, sometimes you're told, greet your neighbor and so on, introduce yourself, isn't it? And that's what we did, even as Christian Union leaders. Please greet your neighbor, get to know your neighbor, etc., isn't it? Now, how long did your conversation last? That first conversation in your Christian Union meeting, leave alone even your first high school. 1 minute, 1 second, 10 minutes? Some striked on conversation. Others really did not last beyond saying, I am so-and-so, I come from Eldoret. I'm Joseph Ngatij from Eldoret. I love the Lord. Others went unknown, spoke about many other things, and shared even some connections. Think about that. How many people were you able to meet and interact to a considerable amount that you can call them acquaintance within that week, first week in campus? 1, 5, 10? It varies, isn't it? Think about this. I know maybe some of you, maybe this was your first assignment, but I know some of you have done some work before and so on. But you've gone for an interview. At least, unless things change, you are invited for a fellowship interview, isn't it? And there is the famous or infamous question, which is, Moffat, tell me about yourself. Isn't it? Now you start wondering. But more often than not, and I've interviewed countless number of people in my career path, and when you ask somebody, tell me about yourself, they will say, what's your name, my sister? Cynthia. And Cynthia will say, other than the name, produce the credentials of what he has studied, and so on and so forth. So beyond your studies, we keep asking, so tell us, let's know who you are outside those credentials. And it becomes very difficult, isn't it? But the essence is that we need a balance between the doing and the being, as it were. You know, have you ever wondered why people go to the same meeting like this one and others, or a training session like myself, that the one that I'm facilitating now, and when the time of feedback, say later this evening or tomorrow, we have a variated level of feedback. Others say it was a great meeting, I like the suit. Others will say the presentation was terrible. But then you have this person who seems to have had a recorder like what I've been tagged on now, and is able to articulate. Why are all those variations? From those many examples that I've shared, why do you think there are those variations? If I can get 1 or 2 people, that would be great. Yes, my brother, and you can mention your name so that I benefit.
No, second.
Eh?
Noah.
Noah, okay. Yes, Noah.
Because we are all different.
We are all different. How different? What makes the difference?
Just how we think and how we consume things.
Yes,
In our
how.
thoughts and in our minds.
Right. How we process things, how we think, we are different. Somebody else? My sister in. Is that red or, you can get. Yes. Please say your name and you give a feedback, and then I'll give my brother there.
I am Susan.
Susan.
I think the reason one could be because of how long it takes for one to adapt to new environment, and or how we adapt to change in the environment and the surrounding and people surrounding us, and also how long it takes for one to accept that I'm here and I have to survive here.
Right. Two things that Susan is bringing: environment and just inner being persuasion that I need to engage. Yes, my brother, your name?
My name is Martin.
Martin.
Well, I think you provided in terms of your personality,
Yes.
and this is acquired
Mm-hmm.
the journey of their lives, basing on what they are exposed to, the experiences of life,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what informs how they perceive issues and how they respond to people, and also to feedback, so to speak.
Great. Yeah, so how people are able to process based on previous experiences, exposures, and able to articulate issues, isn't it? I think you should come here and then we co-facilitate. But from those, Noah, Martin, and Susan, you have a sense that we are been exposed to different experiences before. We've also wired. You mentioned something about personality, and I'm sure you can't run away from focus events if we don't know your personality. So if you have not done in the Christian Union, I'm sure you will do it in the course of time. So personality, how we are made of, and so on. And so this is really the things that we are trying to understand and form even as we think about our topic. So let's move to the next to make some quick definition that will be useful for me in this session. The first one is really the topic itself, interpersonal skills. But I've seen it and sort of this thing is not wanting to cooperate. Because I was Sasa? Okay. We'll manage. So sort of a health tension between interpersonal, social, and that last one, which is social capital. Because I found in my reflection that this will be very useful as we think about this topic. My sister, can you read the first one?
Interpersonal skills are the set of skills we use to interact and communicate with others.
It's a set of skills that helps us to be able to interact, able to bond or engage, but also verbalize, able to give feedback. Yes? The second one, my brother?
Social skills are framed. Social skills are framed as those aspects that allow or facilitate one to relate with groups much more effectively, whether formal or informal.
Yes. So the variation there for us interpersonal tends to think about how you interact one with another. There is a more pronounced when you think about social skills that you're thinking about group setting, you're thinking about formations, teams, etc. And how then do you relate? You know, there are people who, if you tukienda one by one na Cynthia, I thrive. But now when you bring 3-4 people, maneno inaanza kufanya nini? Rebecca, mtu anaanza kukimia, si ndivyo? So those are some of the dynamics that happen. So I'll be looking at this in shortly and seeing how each one of them then relates with. Last one, My brother, I want to see whether you can, yeah, you in purple. Is that purple, right? Hope you can see it.
Of the social capital, this is a network of relationships among people who live and work in a particular society, enabling that society to function effectively.
So in a nutshell, really, that social capital is the sum total of us all. We create a society or a community of STEMers, for example, if I use that word, or focus fraternity, or Christians, unknown. And when we see that the social good of that network enabling us then to participate and contribute positively for the betterment of that society, then it becomes critical. So in our case now, even as we think about this topic, is that the social capital arising from the network of all the STEM staff and other staff members from Focus, for example, and other associates that will come, then creates that and enhances and ensures that the society is able to function effectively. So if you bear in mind those three, and if you think about the first one as almost one-on-one or a smaller group, think of a bigger group, think about a wider expanded society. So that is really what we'll be exploring, and have those three aspects in mind as we think about it. Let's move to the next slide, please. Now, because of time, I said we have 7. We have communication skills, emotion intelligence, teamwork, leadership, conflict resolution and mediation. We have empathy, and the last one, which is problem solving. So those are some of the key ones, and I will not, because you will have time to have the notes, is that I'll just give highlights of some of these things. First is that if you think about communication skills, you're thinking about verbal, non-verbal, listening, but also digital communication in this era and time. So basically, what we say and how we say it qualifies for verbal communication. Non-verbal is how I carry myself as I speak. You see, there is a speaking as I read or whatever I do, but it is either the body language or how I do it, the tone, whether to create emphasis or not, and so on. So that is the non-verbal. And listening is just an opportunity to interpret, to be able to synthesize what somebody else has said and be in concurrence. You know, I can speak to you, but when you speak back, we hatujaelewana, isn't it? It's like we are in cross purpose. And that's where maybe that was hearing. It may be what you heard. But listening is an ability to interpret very closely and have a synthesis that resonates well with the person who was giving that message. And of course, lastly, I don't need to emphasize digital, because that's the platforms that we utilize now. And so communication skills becomes very critical. What we are trying to do even now is an aspect of communication, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What you're doing even in writing, and what all this training will be about is an essence about communication. When you're doing your prayer letters or briefs, it's an aspect of communication. When you are going to engage that one person whom you want to win to be your STEM supporter, what will you be doing, my sister? You will need to communicate, convince me, ability to interact, and then able to action, isn't it? They say communication is dead unless the requisite action has been effected. So really, then communication, even in other circles, you realize that probably some people have almost equated interpersonal skills or relations to communication. But it's because it's the base, it's the strong, it's the connector, as it were, and I'll show you even as we move along. Secondly is emotional intelligence. My sister, what do you think emotional intelligence is? If you are asked.
I think it's being able to handle and manage well emotions.
Can you say it aloud?
Okay, I think it's being able to manage.
Cephas, can you hear him? Can you hear? Sorry. Adley, please stand and verbalize. Yeah. It's part of, we said communication. If we are not linking, then there is a breakdown.
Okay.
That is Mary. Yes.
So emotional intelligence, I think, is being able to handle and understand your emotions well, and also those of others.
Right. Two key words: understand, manage. Really, it's an essence of saying that as human beings, we are emotional beings. We express our inner issues differently, and saying when you have the ability then to grasp your emotions, first of all, manage, and this is very important, is that when you think about emotional intelligence, you're thinking about yourself first, and primarily so, and the people you're handling. The ability to know yourself, manage your emotions in a situation. For example, how many CU chairmen are here? Former CU chairmen, other than Ezekiel. Nyinyi ni watu wa nguvu sana. During our times, it was no joke. Some are called pastors, dad, and so on and so forth. Papa. Hey, okay. Emoji. Moffat. I know Moffat, who is a timekeeper here. Angesema tutawachia roho wa Mungu atembee na hatutaki watu watembee tukiwa kesha. That was like a written law, isn't it? Because they are powerful. And sometimes they may feel like now in this paper you have degenerated the Spirit of God and you are not listening to what the Spirit is saying at that point. You're not connecting, yeah? So you're speaking your mind, you're not speaking the mind of God. Does that happen nowadays? Right? My brother, you seem to know this thing. You want to share your experience. So, but when you think about it, then that requires a high level of emotional intelligence so that you are able to connect and be able then to influence. As if you remember, I said interpersonal skills is an ability to interact and communicate effectively. For society to work effectively, isn't it? For you to manage a group and effectively influence. So emotional intelligence, therefore, comes very critical. And so if you have a stronger emotional intelligence, you cannot be swayed. You stick to the goal and influence levels. Third is teamwork. And teamwork manifests itself in groups, isn't it? We don't want teamwork, and I'm sure, I don't know, I didn't check in the program, but I think there must be a session on teamwork, right? Is it there? Most likely. But anyway, you'll have small groups and an opportunity to interact. And what happens here is ability to be able to then thrive in that group without your thoughts being stifled, but also without you stifling the thoughts of other people. That is in essence. There is delegation, there is cooperation, there is collaboration, trust, and mutual respect. Those are the tenets of a team, and a functional team, as it were. And you're creating a team among yourself, a team of STEMers, maybe within your region. Within the Christian Union, you want to create a team of EXCOM members that are functional and supportive of the work and the ministry of the church or the ministry of the students in that particular campus. And that goes alongside that is leadership. Am I due for another one? Oh, good. So leadership is a whole art of negotiation, persuasion, and influencing towards a particular goal. Now, this is where the challenge comes, that leadership and people who have done leadership will know that the lowest level of leadership is positional leadership, where I do it because I am the chair. I am, and you can feel it for yourself, right? But the ability of creating an influence, a persuasive narrative to create a winning outcome. The winning outcome here is really trying to process in advance and say, where am I leading these people towards? What do I want to be? Where are you being? I've done too much of synth. This is Michael.
Yes.
Michael, my brother, how are you?
I'm fine.
You're being placed where?
In Nyeri.
Nyeri. Nyeri CUs.
Yeah.
How?
Kimathi and
Yes. Already you start thinking about, if I'm going to lead in that area and facilitate focus work in that area, how is my negotiation skills? How persuaded and influential can I be in the things that I do? And that's very important. Is a skill that you must possess. And of course, with teamwork, with leadership comes, they say absence of conflict is an abnormality. If you are agreeing in all ways, and conflict, there is outright explosion in conflicts, but there is conflict minimal, which starts even with variation in ideas, perspective, views, and so on. Now, challenge is that as Christians, Scripture talks about live in harmony with everyone, and as much as is it possible. Yes. Okay. That's the Scripture. But does that say that there will be no conflict? Variation in terms of I've given illustrations of we are varied, and somebody just captured it. I think it was Noah. That we are different, isn't it? And that by virtue of us being different, we can read from different scripts, but also experiences, personalities, and so on, creates conflicts. And so for us, we need to develop then a mediative and conflict resolution capacity and skill to engage, so that you don't go and side and say, I will side with the CU secretary when they differ with the CU chairman. I would, Sindio? Well, see, that's true. Or it has changed. Maybe it happened using our time. Saa zingine, it used to be, kuna wapendwa wanapenda kuomba this way, na kuna wapendwa wanaomba these other ways, ndio? Kuna watu wa hivi, na kuna watu wa kuchapa round kadhaa. But how do you handle a prayer secretary who comes to you and say, my sister, I don't think our secretary is spiritual enough. She's not been praying, or he's not been praying. He's not been coming for morning devotions and morning glory. And it creates a very significant tension. But it could even be how do we reprimand within the Christian Union. Maybe the chairman amekuja anasema, wapendwa nyinyi mnatembea kwa mili, not kwa roho. And no wonder you are not coming for evening prayers. How can we have a CU of 1,000 people and then 50 people only come for prayers? What is happening? You say be either hot or cold. That's what the scripture says. Amua leo. And then now you realize that we are about to break the Christian Union, and you are there as the campus staff. How do you handle it? The ability to be able to process and, as it were, get to the root causes. In my other life, I do conflict prevention and mitigation. That's what my brother Ezekiel was alluding to. And they say that if you do not handle the root cause of a conflict, if you treat the symptoms only, then you have not finalized it. And so for us, having that opportunity, and here is that you don't wait, and also in terms of mediation, there is preemptive and there is also responsive mediation, which comes. And at this point, let me just mention the three, and then where is Peter? Are we ready for the exercise? Let's see. If we are not given the time, we might skip it. The last, next slide. The last two is problem solving. You know, majority of us are problem creators. Did you know that? If we were doing an analysis today here, we say, what are some of the problems that faces the Christian Union? What is the solution? In these two whatever, I can tell you within a second we will feel this on problems. We can describe, we create, we can amplify problems. But few of us are problem solvers. True or false? I will see it. So there is a need for us to be able to identify, define problems, yes, correct. But we need to take appropriate action and be able to detect and choose which is the best. Empathy is call it what? It is an amplified version of sympathy, if I put it that way, in this sense. That yes, you are sympathizing with the situation, but you are able to identify with that situation and understand and make a response with all the sensitivities that you so desire or are so desired. And that's very important. Sorry. So for us, even as Christian workers, student workers, there is need for us to think about how do we thrive in environments that requires us to be supportive of the people we work with, supportive of situations we are in, to make the best out of it. But it starts with you. It starts with those skills. Now, I think we may not be able to. There was an exercise. You have your smartphones. How many people have smartphones? Just type that. We were trying to do something with Peter, but maybe this is a take home. Yes, the link, and share with everybody.
So I'll share the link shortly in the staff WhatsApp group, then we'll take it.
Oh, okay, that's even better. Wait for that to happen. Now, if you are able to multitask, you can do it. But I guess we can divide. Maybe we do just one. I can allow time for that. Maybe we'll do the one for listening. I think that's the first one. If you're able to click, actually, you can even click on that. Who is sending? Just click that link, and then we'll go through 5 minutes, hopefully, and then I'll be able to manage the remaining of our time. Umepata kwa WhatsApp? Unajua hata kama, nowadays I realized all the younger people who've lived in my house, they would rather miss everything else except they have a smartphone. That's the rule. Have you gotten it? Not yet. Now let's move then. I wondered, why don't you click on that? Oh, right. Don't worry. Even the transmission of results occasionally failed. Yes. But maybe as we do that, as you try to connect, go to the next one, the next slide on importance of interpersonal skills, just to manage my time. Peter, if we don't succeed, I will assign you, and then we can analyze another day. Move to the next one. The next, just move to the importance. We'll come back to this. if we succeed. Now, why is this important? Why is it important? 4 things that I want to share for now. I'll just ask people to be able to read. My brother at the fine, please read the first one.
Cooperative teammates to solve difficult problems.
If you possess those 7 and plus more, there are very many, is that you'll be able to cooperate with other people to resolve problems. As much as we are very few of us who are innovative and problem solving. Second, my sister, I hope you are not blocked by the camera lady. Can you see? Or you need, let's move where now? My sister there.
Build collaborative relationships with colleagues.
Mark the words collaborative relationship. You know you can form relationship, yeah, hi, tuko pamoja, lakini hatuko pamoja, si ndio? But collaborative is the ability to say, if we work tasks together, have you gone to a group and 4 of you are given a task, and then the only people who do are only 2, or there is one person who say anajua anafanya yote, then you become spectators. That's not the essence of interpersonal skills. Ability to interact and form collaborative relationships for posterity, and that's the essence of social capital. That network, that is collaborative relationship. Number 3, where is it? My sister with the focus T-shirt.
Understand and meet the needs of clients and
Stroke targets. Who are your targets? Who are your primary targets as campus staff? Students, isn't it? The very direct ones are who? The student leaders, isn't it? That's what we used to train people, that, you can see you KU nowadays ni wangapi? Who is from KU? Ai? Kwani mnaogopa? How many, what was the number of the Christian Union members now?
Roughly 3,000.
3,000. How many leaders from exec to subcommittees to Bible study leaders, roughly?
Over 300.
300. Did you know that it is probably your target might be the 300 as opposed to the 3,000, isn't it? So that you can create a ripple effect. However, because of intentional discipleship, you can also get a few more who are in the masses, but they are very critical students, isn't it? Lastly, let me read that one. Effectively lead and manage others. Interpersonal skills helps you to lead and manage others. Your leader, and it cuts across, including myself, that if you do not possess these skills, you are unlikely to be effective in your leadership and management roles. And that includes even how you manage your partners. Saa zingine we lose our partners by how we relate with them. You only reach out to them when you know that the STEM coordinator amekwambia, my friend, your support raising needs to be done, to be steered up, and then that's you remember to reach out. But in terms of interacting and managing such relationship, next slide, please. I hope you've reached. Now, I exactly will not do what I've said there. I will not really delve into that Bible exposition, but I think it suffices to say that Jesus' ministry on earth, and in my notes you see a number of references I've made, that Jesus' ministry on earth was able to relate with diverse group of people, whether religious or not religious, rich, poor, educated, and so on. And they formed what? The last thing there? My sister, you can read?
Yeah, and managed to forge deep and meaningful relationships.
Deep and meaningful relationships. If you don't have meaningful relationships, then you cannot be impactful. And you can think about the scripture, think about how Moses related with the people and the leaders of Israel that time, from the 12 tribes. You think about how Nehemiah engaged people and mobilized and so on. You can think about Paul Paul writes, and have very deeper relationship with individuals, have a relationship with groups and churches, and so on and so forth. Let's move to the next one, please. How then do you develop interpersonal skills? We'll skip that and say that good interpersonal skills are often viewed as foundation for good working and social relationship, and for developing many other skills. This is the base. Actually, they say in the HR now that we don't hire for those skills. We hire for the soft skills. When you have a bachelor's degree and the other person has a bachelor's degree, but if somebody has a more outward, more interpersonal skills expressed in an interview, is likely to get a job, much more than you. Because the minimum qualifications are all met, but the difference then is how you are able to articulate some of the issues that you are articulating. Next, please. I hope I can utilize my last 10 minutes to just help us here. First is that some of these tips that could help in us building these skills are, one is to identify area of improvement. That task 2 is what has been sent to you. And I would have loved us to do it, but I think we can't. Is that if you do that exercise, you realize that you are likely to score 100%. You're likely to score in other areas 50, 30%. What does that mean? There is an area for improvement, correct? Yeah. There is an area of growth. Not all of us are empathetic, but you can build it, isn't it? Not all of us are problem solving, as I have already said. Not all of us are good in communication skills. Huh? There are people who are just good in written, but they cannot verbalize, and so on and so forth. So what that means is that we need to identify areas for improvement. You need to focus on your basic communication, which I have already shared, areas of verbal, non-verbal, digital, and also listening skills. But also you need to look inwards and seek continuous improvement. That's a commitment you must have. Use and practice your interpersonal skills. Once you know it, once you cultivate it, you must do something. And finally is ability to reflect, to look back. Look back, my sister, when you go which campus are you going?
At AIU, STEM chaplaincy.
Oh, chaplaincy, okay. So if you go there and you're meeting these, gurus of the Bible, Yeah. So, yeah, they might start struggling. They're learning harder hermeneutics, but you have to engage them, isn't it? I know there are other students, but significant bulk is Bible students. And you're saying, how do you reflect after you've gone to visit, after you have had a Bible study group, after you've done Bible study training and many other trainings, after you've spoken in a Christian union or wherever else? Do you come back and reflect and say, will I go back and say, oh, okay, how did it go? Would I call probably your national director and say, what was the response? What are the issues? That's very important. And it's best summarized in the next slide, which is already shown there, that for you to enhance your interpersonal relationship and skills, what do you want to need to do? One is that you need to learn. Second is that you need to continuously improve. But after you need to sustain it or maintain it. That is the essence of these discussions today. Let me pause there because I think that. But let me just say one thing that I wrote here. If we move to the next, I think there are 2 more slides. That in conclusion, 2 things. One is the issue around growth. It's about you. Take a self-drive to grow, but also facilitate growth, even as you think about this. And I've given some challenge to us, that for STEM staff, you can journey with your team leader or one of you, and even among us, the CMF and the rest of the people here, how do you engage across? But secondly, is to challenge us that can you facilitate some form of growth in this sector as far as interpersonal skills are concerned. Next. Now, the person, Grace, now that we interacted with you, and please read that quote, if you are able to.
The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing.
And that's really, I should quit in this presentation so that I can allow you to do what? To begin doing the things that we have just shared. But I feel that we didn't finish properly because of that exercise that we did not do. But I hope you have it on your WhatsApp now. Before, I think I still have a few minutes, right? 5 minutes, correct. So that exercise, I hope you've received. I want to just in 1 minute just say, please do it. And if you're able to do it, I wish we could do even number 1. In 2 minutes, start doing that one. But secondly, is that if there's any question, please raise it now. I think I've rushed a lot. I planned with 1 hour, 15 minutes. I think that's the... But have you been able to open? Can you do the first one, please? Let's see. Can I borrow 5 minutes? Okay, I still have 5 minutes, right? Or 4 minutes now. So, have you, please do it, and then I'll just, we'll take a sample. And then you don't negotiate. You just, in fact, if you go to the column, that where the table was, you can move to Bella. Just move to the next one, the next. There should be a table. Yes, that one. The instructions, to get accurate feedback, it is important that you answer each question honestly, thinking about your current situation, not how you wish to be in the future. You know, you can start answering the way you want. Think about your rate and rate your skills and abilities compared to other people around you. So probably if you're finished, have you finished number 1? There are 4 aspects. There is the one on listening, there is one on verbal communication, emotional intelligence, group and teams working. Did you do it? It refused to open?
I'm still waiting for it to open.
Oh, okay. Ni server inaleta maneno. Haina shida. So, Peter, just come. What if we agree, because this is day 1, you can take time and do it. Okay? Si bado kuna bonfire, mama siku hizi ili mko wengi sana ifanyike. This could form part of the discussions in the groups, if you don't mind. You can even decide and do it in your smaller groups, or even within the teams where you are located. Is that okay? Sawa sawa. So, any question? Any question? Maybe it's my time to be tested on whether you are listening or not actively. So, let's forget about the exercise. Don't do it. We've agreed with Peter that you will finish and then share the. It will come back to you on email. Please, you can forward it to Peter. He will exercise some confidentiality, that he will not relate with you with that in mind, that anaona kumbe uko down kwa hii section. Yes, but you could discretionary reach out to the team leaders. Okay? Any question, please? You just need to ask me a question for the sake of asking. When you go for interviews, they ask you, do you have a question? I don't have. But anyway, hope it's clear. I wish you the very best. Unless there is any other comment, I want to pause there. Okay, let's pray together then. Our Father and our God, this afternoon we thank you that You give us opportunity to share and interact with one another. We thank you that our ministry is people-centered and is Christ-centered, and calls us to be deliberate in our interaction, seek to understand where we are, seek to understand where the other people are, and literally, God, we ask of your help. We ask that, Lord, you give us understanding of where we are at and seek to improve, oh God, by your grace. I pray this afternoon that, Lord, especially for the STEM staff.
The Fellowship of Christian Unions, reaching students, changing nations.